You're listening to the Yeshiva of Newark podcast. I'm your host and curator, Rabbi Avram Kivelevitz, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
If you want to be a real and misty, open Shulchan Aruch, it's what your Zaides did. It's the only way Hashem wants to be close to you. If you want to be a real and misty, open Shulchan Aruch, it's what your Zaides did.
If it's Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Erev Shabbos Shira, this must be Rischa Daraisa. Shabbos Shira really informs what we want to talk about. The Mefarshim say that one of the great significances of Shiras Hayam is that it was Klal Yisrael in their own creativity coming up with this song and with Ruach HaKodesh together with Moshe Rabbeinu. And because of that, my good friend, Rabbi Yosef Gabriel Berhofer, suggested that we talk about some new type of shirim that this door with perhaps not Ruach HaKodesh, but with the power of AI and the power of the Mechadshim using the Zaides that were probably built from video games and beyond, also have come up with shirim. I'm Baruch Hashem here with Rabbi Yosef Gabriel Berhofer and with Hagoyner Meir Schiller, and a special guest who I'm going to introduce in a minute. Rabbi Yosef Gabriel pointed out to me a song that last Pesach was a tremendous hit, Fishy Fishy Yum Yum, and it's based on the psukim, of course, in the Shira. Let's play just a little bit of it for you here.
Yum, 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 yum. Fishy, fishy, yum, yum, yum. Yum, 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 yum. Souda salve your song. Yum, 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 yum. Yummy, yummy. You could bring a horse to a fire bringing, and you could also make him drink. Clink, 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 clink. You can bring a horse to the fire bringing, and you can also make him sing. Sing, 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 sing. Parry pulling up with the third. Ki, Bossus, Paroi, Beroich, Foi, Bayam, Yum, 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 Yum.
Probably many of our listeners have either heard this or had their children play it for them or their grandchildren play it for them. And this song, which has achieved such tremendous popularity, is a production of Thank You Hashem. And Thank You Hashem seems to be a massive media platform, produced hundreds and hundreds of songs, videos, and this week there was a salvo fired back, a sort of a satirical video that was taking aim at many of the ideas that are in the Thank You Hashem canon. Well, how would we describe it, Rabbi Yosef?
A new derech in avodas Hashem.
And because we saw, Rabbi Yosef saw that there is a battle that has now begun, a battle between Thank You Hashem, and they call themselves Emes Yidden, they call themselves Just Learn Torah, the JLT, and it seems that they have produced what they consider the video that is an antidote to Thank You Hashem. I turned to my good friend, someone that, as I say, is the ultimate executive producer of every single program on the Yeshiva of Newark podcast site. That is Rabbi Shmuel Skeist. But I knew that you would probably be able to help the three of us and our listeners understand what is Thank You Hashem really about? What are they trying to promote?
Full disclosure, I don't know personally all the people at Thank You Hashem, although I have met a number of them, but my son does work for them. So I think it's important to say that I may be biased. He produces something called Yid on the Street, which is one of their platforms where they have various people going and interviewing various Yidden on the street in different places. My son's in Eretz Yisrael, and he's one of the reporters for Yid on the Street.
Well, what's the common theme of the Thank You Hashem media? What is it really about?
For a long time, people growing up in the frum world were growing up with a heaviness. I often tell my my son and my other kids who are very much into this Thank You Hashem culture, I tell them that, when I was growing up, all the songs were about, we had On Rivers of Tears. We've gone through the years. If anyone remembers the Jep albums, song after song about the Holocaust and in camp, every cantata and every play, it was all heaviness, which is completely understandable. We were a generation that was living through the trauma of the after effects of the Holocaust. And so you'd have on an album, the same album that would have On Rivers of Tears might have an Ivdu Es Hashem B'Simcha, but that was like a little song on the thing. It wasn't what the impact was. It wasn't what was in the air. The Avira was an Avira of heaviness.
The Honey Mommy with the machine gun ending at the end, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Perfect example, right? And I actually just listened to that a couple of months ago. I played it to one of my grandchildren. They were actually, it was hard for them. And I was like, oh, that was what I listened to every week, I think what Thank You Hashem has done, and it was bubbling for a while before that, but they jumped on it and sort of made it into an organization. They've brought tremendous lightness and a feeling of uplifting and an easier way to carry the burden of being a Yid in Gullus. And it used to be that in modern Orthodox high school, if you try to get people singing by a kumzitz, they didn't know what you're talking about. They look at you like, I remember one time I was in OTI years ago, and I tried to get my shir to sing something before he learned, and they thought I was from Mars. Now you go into a modern Orthodox school, and the kids, and this is due to Thank You Hashem. The kids are so into music. They're so into singing. They love a kumzitz. They love the idea of getting together and singing songs. And it's not just fishy, fishy, yum, yum, that they're not singing that song. That's a song that made waves mostly, I think, with the under 6-year-old crowd. And the rest of us sort of had to tolerate it. But high school boys and girls, I know from people teaching girls' schools as well, they are getting together and they're singing with Hislavos songs, and they're also singing the old songs. Some of them are coming back. They don't realize because they're not experiencing them in the heavy way that they used to. I believe it was so foreign to them because it came with such heaviness. Now that it's light, I mean light in terms of the burden of being in Gullus, I think Thank You Hashem has done an incredible job at lifting that burden to the extent that we can breathe and live through some of these songs.
So some of the messages, Rav Shmuel, like every Yid's a tzaddik, like that's sort of like the idea that we should be positive about being part of Klal Yisrael. We should be positive about the fact that we have this world that we're in and the Torah.
The concept of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam can be a crushing weight to somebody. I'm the school counselor in a special needs school now, and I have a student who desperately wants to be a Talmud Chacham, and his situation makes it difficult for him. He really has to push himself, and he's experiences such anxiety about it. He wants to, and therefore every minute that he's not learning, he's feeling anxious and okay, so that's an extreme example. But many people can walk through life with a feeling that I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. To give somebody the opportunity to walk through life feeling like I have tzidkus in me, and yes, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam is an opportunity, not a crushing weight. I think it's a tremendous service to Klal Yisrael. And it's the same exact principle, but it turns it from being something that can be experienced as difficult and challenging to something that can be experienced as light and welcoming.
Part of what Thank You Hashem is draws on things of the 21st century. It wouldn't be the same if you wouldn't have the AI and the cute videos. It owes a lot to MTV, obviously, and video games and all of that, right? It isn't just the song. Here, part of it is the fact that it can flow through an online culture, filtered maybe, but an online culture that can see it as well. It's not just the words, but it's also the whole movie-like experience.
The AI that allows these videos to be made quickly and at a very high professional level. And it's also the culture of being able to spread these online that allows it to spread. I think it's important to mention that Fishy Fishy Yum Yum song somebody wrote it to poke fun at Thank You Hashem. And Thank You Hashem, and this goes to my point about how they're bringing lightness. They laughed. They thought it was funny. They reached out to the guy. They was like, "Can we produce this and do this together?" They didn't take it as an insult, even though if you look at the song, he was bringing all these different concepts together and sort of poking fun at the fact that they're taking things from the Torah and then throwing them into songs and throwing them into AI. So yes, I absolutely agree with you that it's only because of the culture we live in and the tools that we have available that they are able to do what they're doing.
Past Carlebach, as we start in the late 50s and early 60s and going into the early 70s, over there we start getting the rabbi's sons, Rashi and the Rishonim. There were a number of these fellows, MBD, towards the mid 70s and towards the end, who were sort of writing these sort of like pop-like Jewish songs as a way to not to go to the Elvis or the Stones or the Beatles concerts, right? Or to get these records. And that's why these records started having a little bit of a greater popularity. And this is something totally different, isn't it? I mean, here, it's not that we're afraid that the group that this is being promoted to is the kids or the young adults are going to be spending, their money on Fish or Springsteen. It's just that this is what's expected. And it's actually turned some of these fellows like Joey Newcomb and others, promoting them as big media stars.
It's not just the media stars, as paragons of our avodah. They have the song "I Want to Be Like Zusha," which is all about how I want to be, and which one of the things they poke fun of in the real Yidden video, which is that making singers the paragons of our role models.
So, Rav Shmuel, I sent you the anti-video yesterday. Some of the lyrics, of course, are, the only way Hashem wants to be close to you is if you open up the Shulchan Aruch. And the only way you can be a real Emes Yid is to be what your Zaides did. That you can't start spouting Kabbalah if you don't know Rashi and Chumash. That if you can't be talking about Spheres, if you don't know about Ravina and Ravashi. And it did it by actually, I guess, well, not plagiarizing, but actually, sort of hijacking some of the images from the Thank You Hashem videos, like using some of the same characters or looking like the same characters, and basically telling people that if you keep on following in this derech, the Yom Adin is going to be very tough for you. That the Yom Adin, you're not going to have any Torah, you're not going to really have learned, and all your dancing and going to Farbrengens and going to Uman and eating Bilkelch by the Kerestir, all of that you're going to find out is empty.
The Thank You Hashem has also sung Emes Yid, and the whole song is a mantra. It doesn't actually say anything what you do in order to be an Emes Yid. I want to be an Emes Yid, I want to be an Emes Yid, I want to be an Emes Yid. So I think it's also part of the notion here that to be an Emes Yid is not just to say I want to be an Emes Yid. There has to be an avodah involved. And I think that that's really what, the pushback here is that nothing comes for free. As well, there has to be l'fum tzara agra.
And you found in the JLT website, the Just Learn Torah website, not only do they sort of mock the logo of the Thank You Hashem, but they also, some of what they sell and what they promote is anti that message. For example, Fishy Wishy, they have a line marked against it and said, no, Amar Abaya is what we want, not Fishy Wishy. And every Yid's a tzaddik, if he learns Torah, it's thank you Hashem, but say that in Shemona Esrei, right? So that's part of the attack. But what was your sense from the video? What did you think?
My sense was that, and also from going to their website, once I found out, it's just funny to me that a group of people that are talking about keeping things the way it was, right? They talk about you have to do things like the way our Zaides did it. They have 7 pages of merchandise on their website selling, T-shirts and caps. And it just seems to me that they're not taking themselves seriously enough, because if they were, they would be learning Torah.
Dear listeners, when we sit down to record an episode for the Yeshiva of Newark Podcast Network, we're always mindful of one thing: who's listening and why they keep coming back. We know that you're not just tuning in once. You're coming back episode after episode. And that tells us something important. It means our conversations are resonating with you. That kind of impact is humbling. And it's also a responsibility. Producing content that's thoughtful and accessible takes real effort behind the scenes, from professional editing, production, fact-checking, distribution. Each episode represents an enormous commitment. This has been a free service, complete access without any paywalls for over 6 years and counting. I'm reaching out to invite you to partner with us in sustaining and expanding the Yeshiva of Newark podcast platform. Your support will ensure that our existing podcasts continue at a high level of quality. Listeners have told me that they rely on this content day after day, week after week to stay engaged. Every program has a clearly marked link that you can click on to donate for any amount. I want to thank you and our friends from the IDT Corporation for helping make this possible and for being part of an open-minded, Masorah-conscious, Geschmack Hakarai, sprinkled with authentic lumdus community. I'm Avram Kivelevich. Thank you. Rav Meir, I know that you've been quiet here. I know that when Rav Yosef brought this to our attention yesterday, you felt that there was a lot to unpack.
Here's the core of the question. You can have a Thank You Hashem movement, which strikes me as largely positive, but is that going to cure that which ails us in our 10-hour Gemara day yeshivas? See, that's really where the problem is, because none of this exists within the normative yeshiva curriculum. I said recently to somebody, you would think in the 10 hours we have, and I referred to Hasidim and ultra yeshivas, you have maybe 2 hours less, you have to have English in the more mainstream, but there's not a breath of any sense of the divine in all of this. And it's barely mentioned why this 10-hour-a-day Gemara effort takes place. So I think, this is a nice thing now, set up alongside the normative systems of chinuch. But outside of modern Orthodoxy, where, as Rabbi Skay says, it has permeated to some degree, I think in the mainstream places it doesn't exist. So now what happens is that the boy who is looking for something more than that 10-hour day, he has to go to these other places, and the other places may sometimes suffer. And again, Rabbi Skay could comment better than I could, sometimes suffer from a lack of halachic centrality, from a lack of Yegiyah Sator, these other things. So they're missing that. So you get some bumper stickers and some stickers and some attractive songs. So now you've got these two opposite things taking place. One flawed because it lacks the sense of joyous service of God, and the other flawed because it lacks a sense of a serious obedience to God. The ideal would be to somehow combine them both within the normative systems of chinuch. And that would be a wonderful thing. I mean, I teach in many yeshivas on a weekly basis. I go to many places. Most of them are sort of hardcore yeshivish, most of them, and one light Hasidish. But there is none of this in any of these places. And wouldn't it be wonderful if they could have it? So that, to me, is the primary question. Where are we up to now? We have these two models, and can we have them permeating each other?
I expect there's going to be a tremendous backlash to Thank You Hashem in the near future. The same people who are against Giyus Charedim, they're going to come out against Thank You Hashem, because the same danger that Giyus Charedim represents to the yeshiva system, Thank You Hashem represents the yeshiva system.
But it's so big. It's so big. It's like they can't come out against Rebbe Stefansky. It's too big. Rebbe Stefansky, Shinas Minyanim, and Thank You Hashem in a happier, peppier form of Yiddishkeit. I'm putting them all in the same category. They're bullies. They're bullies. They can't fight. They can't fight the big guy in the playground.
The video that started this for me was the satirical salvo against Thank You Hashem. So I sort of had to learn, as Rabbi Yosef says, I had to go backwards. I wasn't familiar with the Thank You Hashem, although I'd heard about Joey Newcomb. What bothered me in the message, from a lyrical standpoint, the only way God wants to be close to you is through Limud HaTorah. I don't subscribe to that. And I don't know why the lyricist said, open the Shulchan Aruch. As I said, Shas and Poskim is much richer and fuller and exciting, dramatic, and really more geschmack.
Well, there's a big issue among the people about this video. It's a big machlokas. What they meant. Did they mean actually learning Torah? Did they mean hearing the Shulchan Aruch? There's a big machlokas what they meant.
Some of the lyrics said, Torah a Yira Shamayim. And again, maybe I'm too much of a film buff, and maybe I'm giving too much credit to the AI producers. But every single time they went to the ideal, it was three Talmidei Chachamim arguing, and they were all Zikanim. If you take a look at it, the young people in that AI created video, the Emes whatever it's called, to be an Emes, it's the young guy who's standing in front of Gehenna crying and not making it. But not only the Bez and Shamal are three old guys, whenever they turn to what learning should be, it's always three old guys or an old man teaching a young person. And when it's three people sitting there, if you look at the video, they're arguing with each other. Each one is pointing to it and arguing. So for me, I got the message is that what we don't like about Thank You Hashem is that, it's easy for you to just basically not have Amelis Potato and to be misamel in getting to Oman, getting in the helicopter to Maron, and make a big trask. And there's so much that you're missing in learning. One of the greatest images of this anti-video, I thought, was 3 levels. You have little kids looking up to a big singer who's their hero. And then you have on the side an even larger figure, an old Rav who is shaking his head, and you can see the anguish in his face that Nebuch, these happen to be the heroes. And I think that's what this video was trying to do, was trying to set the balance of Meir back.
If they're true to it, they're saying they want the 10-hour-a-day.
But there was also dancing going on. If you noticed in the video, there was dancing behind the Rosh Hashiva. And even the fact that they use this video, this meme, this type of media indicates that, hey, we can have that, but let's have it in a way that Torah is primary. If this is a battle for people's hearts, to hook them, it doesn't make a difference how you hook them. When you reel them in, then you can stick them in the bunker in the back and indoctrinate them any way you want. But if this hook is an indicator, then I don't think it means we're going to crush completely Chassidus, crush completely dancing. It just needs to be put into, it needs to actually have the balance that you're talking about.
Yeah, but again, how are you rescuing the 10-hour-a-day captive? It's the 20, 30, 40%, if not more, of our youth. Can you bring Thank You Hashem? Can you bring a Levitic gut into those 10-hour days? That's the issue here. In other words, the super-duper guy in the Yeshiva Shavelt, or Zay Shavelt, doesn't care about the whole business, right? He's okay. He's fine. When the Rebbe finishes the shir, which was geared to him, okay, he goes and talks to the Rebbe, who loves talking to him. We understand that. And the other 50, 60 kids, percent of the kids, who barely know anything in basic Gemara Rosh Tosfos, so where are they? So again, can you import Thank You Hashem-ism into the normative world of Charedish Yiddishkeit?
There is a sort of box that you have to fit in. And even though it is definitely better than it was, 15, 20 years ago, there still is no room. I remember once my son, who's actually in the band, I can put in a plug for the band. It's called Schlepping Nachas. And I have to say that I shep, I don't have to schlep. I shep a lot of Nachas from him. He's a lichtige Yid, and he was that way since he was a kid. But he was not a school kid. And the whole way through, I would go in and I would say to these Rebbeim who were telling me about all the supposedly things that he was doing to get in trouble. And I would say, you have an incredible talent. It's your job to figure out how to help him and how to, he's not fitting exactly into the rules. So Baruch Hashem, I was Zeicha to have the right guidance to let him know that I got it and that I was on his side and I was there for him. And as a result, he loves Yiddishkeit and he loves Torah and he loves he loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he loves going to Uman in the system. If you have, like Rav Meir is saying, all these kids who are really not, they're not cut out to do that 10-hour a day. They do need this. And so he was doing it on his own. I remember in one yeshiva, he set up a room. He put in lights. It was like just at the beginning of LED strips. So he got these LED strips that made different colors, and he brought musical instruments in there. And they started late at night, and Thursday night after Mishmar, they would sing. And if I'm not mistaken, that was very controversial in the yeshiva. It was not accepted. It was not like, oh, wow, this is a wonderful thing. What were they doing already? They're sitting up late at night and making music.
Again, the problem is you'd have to have a creative curriculum with creative people who would allow for self-expression and who would have to believe themselves. And here I'm going to raise a question perhaps to all of my co-panelists here, and that is, we keep talking, each one of us keeps talking, okay, for the kid who can't do the 10 hours, here is the basketball for the handicapped, okay? We're going to create a mode for them. But is it not possible that it is an equal to a superior mode of avodah, and that Hashem created the world very diverse, and that different people respond to Getlaka in different ways, again, provided halacha is maintained. But that is, I think, even beyond the most sensitive of people in our kind of system. Well, really, that kid who's being mafalpal the toysves, it is wusmadavzan. But everybody, oh yeah, give a little song and dance, But it's the Harlem Globetrotters against the NBA. It's not real.
Because of the attractiveness of Thank You Hashem for many, that's why the CBNers, whatever you want to call them, the JLTers, decided that they needed to fire back and work on this. Does that mean that their system is perfect? No. But they thought there was a threat here, and the threat is bigger than the kids, because this sort of Thank You Hashem attitude stretches into the young adults and the fellows in the hedge funds, the people living in the 5 towns who have monies, who are spending it and being involved in the type of activities that the video is trying to really dismiss as being non-central and in a way negative, because it's replacing these type of pa'ulas to things which are more building their own nefashos.
But do you think the normative yeshivish system or Hasidic system is so emphasizing Musar and Hasidus that it's providing that need?
I don't think it is, but the question is whether it's a big thing of mine to say that the Yitzhar is like a chihuahua, because that's one of their popular songs, one of their popular themes. That the Yitzhar is a chihuahua, and they sing the chihuahua song.
Does it get silly? Yes, at times it does get silly, but that just challenges everybody else to come up with something that's not silly. That's all.
But it's more than just silly, Rav Meir. It's also the amount of money, the time, the effort. You don't take these trips to Uman and let's go visit, let's make a kiddush every time that there's a yard site for the Rebbe.
A small tikkun after davening with Lekich and Bronfen, where you talk about the tzaddik and his werte, I think would be a very big improvement in the Hasidic issue of children.
Are they going to Karastir because with Mayor, because or Shmuel, or are they going there because they want to become greater Ovdei Hashem in terms of their personal avodah, and they're looking for a quick fix?
They find the current system closed to them.
That may be, but the question is, what is the alternative? Is one we should encourage or discourage?
One we should encourage, provided it has clarity.
The luxury trip to Karastir is a good thing or a bad thing?
Yes, well, let me put to you this. What are nigunim bichlal? I think that's the question on the table. What are the non-explicitly halachic practices? Where are they to be filed? And I think they should be filed according to the Hakdama or Hezbollah that these things have. If a person approaches Nigunim, like you find in the Chabad literature, this is Nigun Simcha, this is Nigun Hizbonenus, this is Nigun Marirus, that each one of these Nigunim is supposed to awaken a certain sense of religious attachment within
and
us.
What is I'm a lucky ducky supposed to awaken?
No, that's just silly, but that's a
that's the genre. The genre is I'm a lucky ducky, and maybe that's what's necessary. But if the frivolity is a hook to then get to real, some sort of significant avodah or some sort of significant thought.
I just want to point out that children's books and children's characters are in the frum world are often way too serious. It's almost like you can't write a children's book if it's not teaching you a lesson, right? And so I happen to be a big fan of Dr. Seuss. right? And the act of reading a Dr. Seuss book to your child with its silly language and its silliness brings a sense of connection. Silliness sometimes brings senses of connection with children and with young people.
The opening of the soul becomes opened.
Yes.
You know what? I think that's a very good point. And I think that for, all these songs, I'm a Lucky Ducky, Sus Parrot, Chihuahua, maybe they're all good to a certain age. The question is, what is something being given to people above that age for them to grow into?
Exactly.
And that I'm not sure what's happening. I think what's happening is that the later, even the older you get, you're not getting something more appropriate to your age. You're stuck in this, thank you, Hashem, younger type of mentality. Is somebody giving something to the next stage?
The kid comes into high school, comes into Masifta. What do you give him to read? Do you give him things that are profound and serious and evoking of his feelings? Or do you give him just, trite stuff? So I think that's not a simple question. And Frum Yidentum has not yet dealt with that question seriously. What are Beethoven? What is Hutzman?
Pirkei has closed down permanently. There's no longer a Pirkei. So Thank You Hashem, I think, has become the main vehicle to reaching youth in our day and age. And obviously my grandkids are very much into it. So the question is, where is it leading them? And I don't think anybody's given that matter thought yet.
I want to bring up this video and song that was a hit for Thank You Hashem. And this was it was heralded as a special event because Joey Newcomb and Owen Moskowitz were singing this as a duet. And it's based on, I believe, the Megillah Starim of Rabbi Kamarna, the first Kamarna Rebbe, where, again, it was a sefer that was discovered, his own diary, his spiritual diary. And he wrote in there that he was Pisayim be'emtza limud Gemara Yevomus, as he was in the middle of learning Yevomus, Nofal alai or Elyoin, v'nismali kol abayis oira, umamish tam ora yom haba, and he was able to now chap something. Again, you'd have to look at the original to understand what was going on inside the nefesh of this incredible tzaddik. Now, this was a song, and I want to just play a little bit of it.
באמצע לימוד גמרא יבמוס נפל עליי אור עליון פתאום באמצע לימוד גמרא יבמוס נפל עליי אור עליון פתאום באמצע לימוד גמרא יבמוס נפל עליי אור עליון באמצע לימוד גמרא יבמוס נפל עליי אור עליון ונשמע עלי כל הבית כולו יוירו ומה משתומתה אור עולם הבא אור עולם הבא ונשמע עלי משתומתם אוי רוי לא מבוא אוי רוי לא מבוא
What's your objection that people who sing it probably never learned your bonus in their life?
First of all, when it's not about them. This is a big hit. This song is a Devekus Nigun, and it's gotten tremendous. It's got thousands and thousands of downloads, and people have maybe perhaps
it's a perfect literature thing. You have to be impressed. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful literature song. I'm learning Bamas now, and I don't get that.
The Or Godel, the Nefesh HaChaim is going to tell us to be seeking an Or Godel when we learn Yavamas. You shouldn't be doing Satirical.
Again, they've taken the experience of the great tzaddik, the Kamarna, who wrote a parish be'iyun on Teres Kaihanim called Asira Sa'efa. He also wrote a parish on Mishnayos. He was a Boki B'chol HaTorah Kula. was Nismala B'Shasu Peiskim, and of course, a Talmud of Zidichover. You're talking here about someone whose darg is almost impossible to be masig. And then you turn this into the song, as I said to Rav Shmuel before. It's not just the words of the song, it's the video that accompanies it. And the video that accompanies it, definitely, although there is an AI seemingly version of the original Kamarna Rebbe somehow getting that or. But basically, you get this idea that, yeah, you know what learning is about? You're going to get an Or Elyon, and it's going to be Nispala Abayis, and right? It's this to me gets into the kishkas of our question. Rav Yosef, I'll ask you. You hear this song, so you want to go learn Yavamis now? Or is it was amazing. I was in the middle of learning Yavamis, and I got this Or Elyon, Nispala Abayis.
Well, as I may point out, this is a very good song if you hold the Baal Shem Tov's definition of Lishma, and it's in order to accomplish Dveikus. So it's a beautiful song for that, and okay, fine. As he pointed out correctly, the Nefesh Chaim would hold that getting the organos is probably Bittul Torah. True, okay. But I think all in all, this is actually, thank you Hashem, trying to play to the more yeshivish crowd.
Are they? Do they accomplish it here, or do they make people think that learning Gemara is all about? I'm just waiting for that ruchnis.
I don't know. We're not thinking too deeply. You're thinking so deeply. You're thinking like they're not thinking that deeply. It's not going through their minds, and they don't want it to go through your mind. Or Yavamis, or Gadol, Gavaldik.
Let me ask you this. Would any leadership in the Yeshiva Welt or the Hasidic Welt say to their Talmidim, beginning of the Zman or the day, whatever, when you learn Yavamis in order to experience Or Gadol, they would say, Matzach Narish, we're not by that Madrega, and let's learn.
I saw a video of Reb Baruch Mordechai Ezrachi, one of the hyped Litvaks, singing Vafilu Bastora Shebetoch Hastora. Right? So Reb Baruch Mordechai Ezrachi can sing Vafilu Bastora Shebetoch Hastora, right? All the boundaries are broken.
You can understand why this type of song, despite its beauty, should elicit hisnagdus.
I don't think it did it?
The whole JLT is a hisnagdus.
Not to that song. They specifically about the Yavamis song, because it's not. They're not going to criticize it because it says learn Yavamis. It's brilliant, actually.
A lot of the reaction to Thank You Hashem is driven by fear, as is a lot of the ways that people make decisions in chinuch, because the outside world feels so scary and feels so threatening. And not only that, also these kinds of experiences can feel threatening. Like you're saying, oh, is somebody going to learn Yavamis because they want to have an incredible experience? So, I have to share a quick story with you, because the best mincha that I ever davened in my life, at least from my point of view, I don't know about it from my Kadosh Baruch Hu's point of view, but from my point of view, happened in a yeshiva that I was zeichet to teach in for a year. It's not around anymore. The yeshiva in Bat Ayin in Eretz Yisrael. It was a very interesting Baal Tshuva yeshiva for Baal Tshuva that didn't fit into Eish or Sameach and so on, a very off the beaten track. And I came in there. Actually, I think it was for my prabba. I was supposed to give a shir. And I came in mincha time, and so they said, "Oh, we're going to have mincha first." Okay, so I put on my hat and I took a siddur, and the chazan goes up to the amud and he gives a clap on the amud, and the Beis Medrash goes absolutely silent, and there was silence for about 5 minutes. Absolute silence. And listen, I grew up, I went to Shayashiv. Maybe it's not a regular yeshiva, but it's not that irregular. So I'm standing there. I don't know what to do. I'm just waiting, And then after 5 minutes, the chazan goes, Ashrei, and the place explodes into an Ashrei like I never experienced. And there was something so powerful about the silence preceding the tefillah. And then I asked them afterwards, I said, like, is it like this is this every tefillah like this? And they said, no. But every tefillah, the chazan is welcome to try something that will get the tzibur to be ready to daven. And so sometimes people will sing, sometimes they do silence, sometimes somebody will come up with their own thing. They did movement. I mean, I'm not suggesting necessarily. Well, I don't know. Maybe I should be suggesting, why are we afraid of these things when they can produce? And I'm not saying every davening can be like that. We all know that every davening can't be like that. But why are we afraid of things that can produce a spark, a feeling, a connection that will allow people to take it into the rest of their lives where they're not having that moment? It's fear.
I once said, the reason that Satmarov was so against Rabar Lerot back in the early days in Hungary was that once you start talking about a personal God and you start davening a little dangerous, that's a threat to the system. And the system is correct. If you allow for those energies and enthusiasms, your system will be threatened. And Satmarov didn't want any threatening things, and Rabadla had a cough. But it's not simple because it is true. They are threatening.
JLT sees the TYHers as powerful, as big, as super attractive, and making inroads. And that's why they're trying to fight back.
And we want everybody still, and at worst bored, still sits on.
I'm going to don them a kapschus.
That's what I'm doing now.
Oh, no, again, but to you, that means to stay in a purgatory of a system that you feel is always going to break because it's built on the wrong Zaides.
Did I say it's going to break?
Well, it's always going to have people that are going to fall out of it. It's always going to have people that are unzufrieden.
Mostly people who will float with it, bored, mostly that. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it is a flawed system.
Yes, correct.
Right, but what I would say is that they're trying to neutralize the allure of the TYH. They know that people will be enchanted by it, and they'll be sucked more into it. And I think that's really what this is about.
And any form of human enthusiasm outside of their box is dangerous. That's correct, sure, and it is. And it's going to build a new box. Who can do that?
But I would at least grant them that the messages might be, it was too much on the nose, and it was too bringing up the specter of Yom Adin. But I understand what they were trying to do.
Of course,
I understand, and I'm sympathetic to that.
Rabbi Avraham Elian Bikvas Hayira, of course, says that I'm quoting from my translation. And then you should come to the community of Israel, and you will rise on the stage, even if it must be a political and partisan stage. Shall call upon that stage to the nation that it should renew its heart, should open its heart to Torah and fill its heart with love and fear of God. Yes, in such simple terms. Let these direct and clear words, devoid of metaphor and criticism, be heard from atop every high stage and penetrate every vigorous heart. To know, to inform, and to clarify, they have but one slogan: Yira and good deeds. So I think that I would be happy if Thank You Hashem or just Learn Torah started talking about Yiras Hashem directly, as opposed to every Yid's a tzaddik, as opposed to everybody's just got to learn Torah, right? We're missing the boat, Rabbi Isai. The boat is Yiras Hashem. Avos Hashem is also good, but Yiras Hashem, Yiras HaOnesh, Yiras HaRoimus, and that's not being taught. And that's something which we shy away from. We know it's not because it won't cause simcha, because the Tarn Velio says, "Ani samachti mitoch hirasi, be'aresi mitoch simchasi." You can have simcha and here at the same time, they come together. So therefore, what bothers me is that nobody's talking about Yiras Hashem. People are talking about either just learn Torah, or people are talking about just every Yid's a tzaddik. So I'm looking that people should speak about Yira and realize Judaism is not about slogans. It's about nuance and learning. Learning, not about learning Torah just as learning Torah, but learning what Yiras Hashem is about. And I think that there's not enough of that on either side. But each side is talking the slogans and short snippets and bumper sticker type material, and that's a big problem.
There's a Hasidic Shavot, but Hasidim Anigan is assumed by the Litvish Amos Sefer. If it would be true, and to the degree it's true, then your wish will be fulfilled.
Yes. No, I think an emes Hasidic Nigun, like a Lubavitch, one of the classic Lubavitch Nigunim, it has that.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's true, but it has to be in a context.
It has to be articulated. Someone has to say what it means when we sing these things. Yeah. What is it all about?
I agree that certainly we need to teach Yiras Hashem on a deeper level. There is also, though, a Yiras Hashem that gets taught on a simplified level automatically. And so from the way I look at it is that the Thank You Hashem sort of balances that piece out. And then, of course, you're right. Yiras Hashem is not a, it's an avodah. It's part of it's a much deeper thing. So I agree with you, but I also think that there's room before that.
I'm okay with the hook.
Right.
I'm okay with the hook. If Thank You Hashem is the hook, it's fine with me. But then Hook, line, and sinker. Let's take it to the next stage.
But that might not be their job. In other words, Thank You Hashem might say, listen, this is what we're doing, and let someone else take the next step. I don't know.
Maybe you're right, but then somebody else has to step to the plate and say, okay, and that because Thank You Hashem seems to be taking over in a monumental way what Klal Yisrael's Zaides. And I don't know if they're allowed to shirk that responsibility and say, well, we just take you to first base. Somebody else will take you to second base.
The three of us have really, many ways, stated our stance in multiple ways, but similarly, almost every time we talk about this subject. And you say, Rabbi Yosef, that, okay, just learn Torah is not enough because you're not stressing the Avodah and the Yerushalayim. But I really still believe that in Shas itself, if it's taught properly, if it's learned properly, it permeates with ruchnius, with a sense of avodas
Right,
Hashem.
I reject that. Yes, I disagree. I disagree. Maybe Ein Yaakov, but not Shas itself. Let me tell you, I don't disagree about you. I think Reb Avram Kivelevich will get from Shas Yiras Hashem. Yes, but the masses will not. They need special lessons.
So as I've always said on this platform, we need people who can teach it and bring it out, especially when it's right in front of their eyes. And again, I can watch the video of Joey Newcomb and Moshkevitz, dancing around, but that does nothing for me. But when I see this Gemara, and let me read you the Gemara. Amar Rebbe said that he was going, Shahalachti lematzos midoisai. He wanted to be mamatze his midos by Rebbe Lezer ben Shemua. So he wanted to perfect himself. And he said that Rebbe Lezer ben Shemua had a very favorite Talmud there called Yosef Abavli. And Yosef Abavli, the Gemara says, Rebbe said he was chavin loy miYosef. Now, Rebbe Yosef Abavli said to Rebbe Lezer ben Shemua, he said, I heard this statement. He kept on asking him a question about a very technical question in Pigel, if the machshavas Pigel you have will be a machshava not to actually have a wrong achila later of the mizbeach or yourself, but if you would leave the dam for later, would that create a psul or any problem? And Rebbe Lezer ben Shemua kept on telling him, it's kosher, it's kosher. Eventually, Rabbi Yosef Abavli asked him over and over the same question. Finally, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua said, there is a shita that holds its puzzle. Rabbi Eliezer. The Gemara says, Tzavu panav shel Yosef Abavli. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua then turned to Yosef Abavli, and all this is Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. Listen to what I'm saying. Yehuda HaNasi remembering something from his youth and remembering it so distinctly. And he said, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua turned to Yosef Abavli and said, was I wrong before? Now you're happy? So he says, I'll tell you why. He said, I heard from my previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda ben Eloi, that it was possible, and I checked with all the Talmidim of Rabbi Yehuda, and nobody remembered it. And I was in such pain, Yosef Abavli said, because nobody, now, finally, I've heard that I was not wrong, that somebody actually, that Rabbi Yehuda probably had said it in the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. So at that moment, look what the Gemara says. Zolgu einov demoyus. His eyes started to tear up, Rabbi Eliezer ben Shemua. And he said, Ashreichem talmidei chachamim shedivrei Torah chavivan aleichem b'yoser. And he said, Ma hafti Torasecha kol hayoim hisichasi. Right? So you look at that Gemara, how can you not learn that Gemara and not be astounded by, first of all, Rebbe's Zikaron, how it was etched in his memory? How can you not be moved by the fact that the sensitivity of Eliezer ben Shemua when he saw that the face changed of Yosef Abavli? And how can you not be moved by Yosef Abavli's amelus of saying, did I really hear it right? And the research and the avodah that Tsari had, and then the simcha that he had when he discovered what he heard was correct, and the hispilus of his Rebbe who started to cry and said, this is what learning is about. You get that Gemara on Daf Yomi? I don't know if Stefanski stressed it or not, but when you get that Gemara, my Nismali Abai is Kulei Oira. I don't need to be the Kamarna Rebbe and getting Ruach HaKodesh in the middle of Yavamis. That is gewaltig. And you get that on pages of Gemara, wherever it is.
I don't know. You don't get a Cheskas Abatim until Daf Samech. You know, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was poetic. But in 30 blot Cheskas Abatim until you get to Daf Samech, you don't have that. You're like a Chazon Ishnik. You believe you don't need Musa. You get it from the Gemara. Most people are not like that. Sorry. Pick the one Gemara, right? Moving Gemara. Gewaltig.
It was yesterday's stuff.
Okay, so what? It won't be tomorrow's stuff you made. It'll be stuff you made every 10 months. So you want to say that this is replacing Musar? No.
These pearls are there consistently. And that's what I think.
No, you're going to learn your vomits, all those cases which the Nachlas Tzvi brings down. You're not going to get it. Maybe the Kumran will get out of there, but I'm not getting out of all the Nachlas Tzvi's cases with all those things, with all the mathematics and drive. It drives me crazy even to think about it, right? I need Muslim.
Rabbi Kivelevitz, just my question to your presentation is, okay, I've been in this world, the Orthodox Jewish world, for 53 years. My experience has been that I'd say all yeshivas do not use this to inculcate anything, and that the Gemaras are few and far between, and that you're going to need some results of Pfeffer, because, as I say, 53 years, I haven't seen it done yet.
Like I said, I think it just calls for a certain quality of teaching and reminding. It's like the Netziv says, the reason why we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim every day, but we have one day to do the Sipur, is because it doesn't work if we do it consistently, if we stress it. But what we do is one day we immerse ourselves in it, and then we push the button every evening. And when we push that button, all that emotion, at least a little bit of that emotion and feeling comes back because you remember it, right? So I'm not saying you can, Yosef Gabriel Bechafer, I agree with you. It's not on every page. But if you do stress it when you have it, so every time I'm going to teach about Rebbe, my Talmidim will remember who Yehuda Nossi is. And every time they hear about who Rebbe Lezer is, they're going to remember because of that piece of Gemara that's there, they're going to remember it and they're going to see it. And just like the Kotzker Rebbe said, that Abaya and Rav are standing in front of us. Yeah, Omar Abaya, not fishy-wishy. Yes, Omar Abaya, but Abaya as that human being.
I think, Rabbi Abraham, your Rischa D'Oraisa is an emes Musar Vart. And I give you a shkoyach for that. Because the way you got into it, the way you got into that learning is wonderful. And that's, that is a list here in and of itself.
We'll come back often and join, especially since the three of you are in Muncie. It makes sense that we should have the Muncie three. Take care, everybody. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll catch you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem.
Thanks for listening. And remember about that donation link in the episode show notes. And if you liked what you heard, share it with your friends. Today's episode was produced by me, Avram Kivelevitz, with audio production from Eretz Yisrael, Artseinu Aktoisha, by Ben Wallach of Experience Audio. It was edited with love by Tzvi Gordon. Catch you next time. Shalom uvracha.
Haydu LaHashem ki hitay ki le'olam chastay Haydu LaHashem ki hitay ki le'olam chastay Hapam moidem ves Hashem Hapam moidem ves Hashem Hapam moidem ves Hashem ki le'olam chastay Alles is over. Thank you, Hashem.